Okay, I've been wanting to make this video for at least a week now, and the initial inspiration for the video is a really obscure Radiohead track from, uh, it was officially released off the My Iron Lung EP, which came out in 1994. It collected, I believe, songs that were written and recorded in between Pablo Honey and the Bends. A track called Lewis Mistreated, which I'll get to in a sec. But at the gym today, another song came on my headphones that reinvigorated my motivation to make this video about Radiohead. And it's another one that's also off the My Iron Lung EP called Punch Drunk Love Sick Sing Along. And it hit me that they have a lot in common in the regard that I'm about to describe. The ultimate point that I'm going to make is that Radiohead began dying when they released OK Computer, when they began making the music for that record. Let me pause this for a sec, so I want to set this up. If you listen to, Pablo Honey, it's a very typical debut record. It's certainly not bad. Anyone Can Play Guitar is an amazing song. It's one of my all-time favorite songs with one of my all-time favorite lyrics. I want to play in a band when I get to heaven. That's amazing. And that line itself also lends to the overall point I'm going to make. These days, and starting with OK Computer, Tom York would never in a million years have written a line like that. I want to play in a band when I get to heaven. No way. He was full postmodern. Starting with OK Computer. And him and Johnny Greenwood, and I think the other three guys, particularly Ed O'Brien, were still pop-oriented, but they went along with the crowd. And can't blame them. I want to make clear, Radiohead is one of the most mind-blowing, brilliant bands of all time. I will always be a lifelong and devoted fan. I don't like modern Radiohead. Sense and Rainbows, I think their music they've been making is terrible. I notice a sharp decline with Hail to the Thief. There's about 4 songs on that I like, and even those I don't really listen to much these days. Yeah. So one of my what's the word I'm looking for? Beliefs. I was trying to be more fancy, but I think what I'm trying to describe is best described as simply a belief. I don't want to talk trash about bands publicly, about other artists. I'm approaching my late 40s, and I'm really in many ways just starting to make an honest and effective effort, a legitimate effort at trying to establish my music publicly. So I know firsthand how nearly impossible it is, and the last thing I want to do is, even accidentally throw some opinion out there that for whatever arbitrary reason, might catch fire on the internet, and even in a minuscule way might lead to affecting the livelihood or musical effort of someone else. That'd be pretty stupid if some loudmouth from Jersey, affected another musician's livelihood. That'd be pretty dumb. So, and it just doesn't feel right to be talking trash about other people's music. And I've always operated that way. I've been to open mics where I thought, and gigs, open mics and gigs, I've seen tons and tons of people play, and there's been times where I thought the music that I was listening to was objectively terrible, and I always try to find something positive about it. And if I can't, I don't say anything about it. I always kept my mouth shut and would always give applause. Always gave the bare minimum that I wanted to receive. Bare minimum respect, bare minimum reaction, which was just simple applause. If I bumped into the person afterwards, I'd find something positive to say again, or I would just say something generic like, "Hey, great job, good stuff, good voice." And there's always something nice to say. There's always something positive to point out about someone's effort in any field in life. And music is certainly no exception to that rule. So I always stuck by that. I'm proud that I stuck by that. Not in an arrogant way, but I feel good that I never compromised that ethic of mine. That belief of mine. Um, you know, because I've many times, and I will be that person. Hopefully not many times, but I will at least be that person sometimes going into the future as I begin to establish my sea legs back on stage. I will be that person that is playing objectively terrible music, and that many people in the audience will struggle to find something positive to say or to react to, and yet I still expect bare minimum respect and reaction. It's just give me a few claps and keep your mouth shut. So that being said, Radiohead, again, they have fans like me. I was so into Radiohead in the 90s during the OK Computer era, which I'm about to criticize and critique. I had dreams. I'm not lying. I had at least 2 dreams about buying OK Computer, or I guess just in general, but it was inspired by the OK Computer singles, buying Radiohead B-sides in record stores. I mean, normally my dreams are out to lunch. You know, I think like a lot of people's dreams, they're very Willy Wonka-ish. The environments of my dreams are often the most interesting element of them. Very Chutes and Ladders-ish. I'm probably dating myself, but that's fine because I come from a better generation in general. So I'm fine verifying my age. But the Chutes and Ladder game board, it's a very winding, kind of warped path that you have to take with many magical and mystical creatures. My favorite was the gumdrop guy, a big, fat, cute, purple. Maybe that was the chocolate guy. There's a lot of cute, magical candy creatures on that game board. And the environments, the landscapes of my dreams often resemble something somewhat equivalent to the design of that game board and the path on it. Streets are constructed like roller coaster hills, you know, rising and dropping like roller coaster hills. And that's where I have to stop describing it, because most of it is indescribable. Just wild, amazing landscapes that I often wake up wishing I could visit in objective reality. But alas, they only exist in my my unique brain. Unique for better and for worse. Hopefully more for better moving forward in this life. So where was I going? Chutes and Ladders, dreams. Yes, I have dreamt at least twice, and one of the dreams I remember very explicitly. I was in a record store that was definitely in my brain modeled on Tower Records near where I grew up, and there was a big bin, really tall, cylinder-shaped bin, filled with CDs that were in my brain modeled on the amazing. I have one right here to show you. The amazing OK Computer singles of the time. This one is Karma Police CD1. How cool is that? They had sequels to their singles. They had so many amazing B-sides to release at that time. And this one, Karma Police, had Meeting in the Aisle, a very interesting instrumental track, which was the first time that Radiohead began using overt electronics. I was horrified at first, but it grew on me eventually as my ear matured and opened up to different types of sound that were not distorted guitars. And Lull, which is a forgotten B-side from that era. I think it might have been on the recent, or fairly recent OK Computer reissue, OK Not OK, which I don't think was the best title. But the most important part was that they released a lot of great outtakes, and they collected all the great B-sides from the Airbag EP, and I believe they included lost tracks like Low on that reissue as well. So everything was delivered together for the first time. In the past, it was OK Computer, these crazy and amazing import singles. There it is, made in England. Can you see that? Yeah, this cost me about $12 to buy, but I happily bought it. stuff like this that inspires amazing dreams that I will get around to describing. But one more note about Lull. For some reason, it was not included on the Airbag EP, How Am I Driving, which collected the majority of the OK Computer B-sides. Another track that wasn't included on that, which has been almost completely forgotten, because I don't believe that was included on the OK Computer reissue, How I Made My Millions, which apparently, from what I can hear on the track itself and from what I read, was just Tom turning on, a basic recording device, playing piano, and improvising a melody. I remember a fan wrote that you can hear his girlfriend washing the dishes in the background. I've yet to be able to detect the sound of his girlfriend washing their dishes in the background. I believe her name was Rachel. It's amazing that I remember that. I don't know if he ended up marrying Rachel, or if he's still dating Rachel, or if they have split. But I believe that at the time, Tom was dating a girl named Rachel, and apparently you can hear her washing dishes in the background of How I Made My Millions. But all that being said, How I Made My Millions was not really much of an intentional track. I think it was Tom taking the piss a bit, as the British would say. He was saying, I've made my millions, especially in that era, the OK Computer era, which I am going to get to, my critique of it, my observations and critique of it. He was just playing chords and improvising very vague, and in that song, most often incomprehensible lyrics, and that's how he became the genius of his time. But it is a very pretty melody, How I Made My Millions. So, I had a dream, gigantic cylinder-shaped container stocked with CDs that in my brain were modeled after these CD singles. I've got one of the Paranoid Android ones up on my wall here too. Paranoid Android CD1, which I believe has Polyethylene Parts 1 and 2, and Pearly has the B-sides. Amazing songs. Yes, that's how excited I was about Radiohead at that time. I dreamt about buying overpriced import CD singles with their B-sides, okay? So I'm criticizing a band, and that excitement for their music, the music that I love by them, which is quite a lot to speak of. That excitement still endures to this day. They're one of my all-time favorite bands. Yeah, so I'm criticizing something that I love very deeply. So I think I get a pass. Here's my critique. If you listen to the Benz era stuff, and we're gonna look at a couple tracks from the My Iron Lung EP here in this video, there's a liveliness, energy, simply put, there's a life to that music that completely died with the OK Computer era. And recently, I've been able to break it down more in more tangible musical terms. And what I noticed is, might have to jump around a bit here. What I noticed was I was listening to a really amazing track called You and Whose Army off their Amnesiac album, which I do love. I'm going to explain that I don't love it quite as much as I used to. That was released in 2001. Melodically brilliant, as most things that this band has done is. Gorgeous. Come on, it's got a symphonic, simplified classical feel, very unique melodies. In many ways a mind-blowing tune. But let's keep listening. What is not changing? Watch how I bop along and move my hands to the music. This groove, this rhythmic groove, does not change for the entire 3.5 minutes. It's this the entire time. Melodically brilliant, really sophisticated chord changes, lots of, I'm sure, augmented and I don't know, interesting chord voicings that I don't normally use in my songs. So I'm not as learned as these guys. See, it's still the same rhythmic attack and groove. Even when the band beefs it up, as is about to happen, I'll skip ahead, it doesn't change. Changes in volume, but here we go. Even at its peak, its climax here, it's being reinforced with some heavy piano chords. It's still the rhythmic attack is not changing. So it hit me, and I started listening to some OK Computer stuff as it came up, probably on my phone, in the car, in my master playlist shuffle of all my favorite songs. I noticed there's a rhythmic monotony to Radiohead, starting in the OK Computer era and beyond. Ultimately, at this point, after I've heard a lot more music than I did when I was 19, when OK Computer came out, I find it very boring. I mean, that song, You and His Army, is gorgeous. But it kind of bores me. It's very drony and rhythmically monotonous. And like I mentioned postmodern before, I'm not that educated in what postmodern actually is, but I know, like Marxism, it attacks objective beauty. I know that's a big feature of postmodernism. So in a very general sense, it attacks foundations. So in terms of music, things become very forcibly experimental because postmodernists don't believe in an objective, beautiful musical standard. So, and I hear Radiohead started attacking foundations of rhythm, excitement, and rhythm dynamic, starting with OK Computer. I guess, I mean the simple answer is the Bends failed. It was a big failure, and they were going to get dropped from their labels. So they had to pivot. They made a very bold pivot to go in such an experimental direction with OK Computer, but I think it's a bit tragic. As great as the music is that they released from that era onward until In Rainbows, because I don't like In Rainbows. And I'll probably find a way to repeat that one more time in this video, how much I don't like In Rainbows. But yeah, it's kind of a pretentious, elitist attack on objective fundamentals of music. And if you go back to this track that I was mentioning before, Punch Drunk Love Sick Sing Along, check out the difference. This is a 1994 track, maybe 95. No, I believe it's dated as 1994, because the My Iron Lung EP was released in 1994. Okay, at this point, it could fit into the OK Computer era. Heavy on the atmospherics, very drony, hazy, no rhythmic change at all. But this is what distinguishes the Benz era from everything that came after it, right here. See how my head, I mean, I'm exaggerating it, but then you go back into the haze. And these are objective musical standards, or foundations, I think is a more accurate way to describe it. You know, it's kind of, in a very subtle way, arena rockish. It's punchy, it's exciting, and it gets really exciting as the song moves along. And this is artsy Radiohead at an early stage in their career. Could fit into their postmodern era, but listen to what they do. I'm gonna take a drink. Right here. It's all hazy, drony, but then that's classic rock. That guitar lead right there, that's meat and potatoes, blues rock inspired, classic rock riffing. And listen to this. Palm muted power chords. Big grand open chords. You just heard some big drums. And if played a little louder, compositionally an arena rock worthy chorus. And what's Tom singing about? He's not singing about androids being paranoid or Gucci little piggies. He's saying a beautiful girl can turn your world to dust. He stopped writing lyrics like that, and I think that's an illustration of his and the band's artistic pivot, starting with OK Computer. And his singing was that's the other distinguishing factor element of the Benz era. Tom's singing was so much more overt and soulful, and to me, honest. He started becoming very pretentious, starting with OK Computer. He was holding back his amazing gift, his amazing, beautiful, as I've read them described before, I believe in Rolling Stone magazine, choir boy-esque vocals. Why would you want to, denigrate, self-denigrate a gift like that? Why would you want to demean that and hold that back from the world? This is what I miss. A band that was so incredibly brilliant and artistic, but was not afraid to write what is ultimately a dumb love song. Punch drunk, love sick, sing along. And talk about arena rock. Listen, they cut this out completely from the band. Organ. Talk about blues rock, classic rock inspired moves. There's an organ thrown underneath there. Starting with OK Computer, they wouldn't put a keyboard in their songs unless they created their own synth sound, which I do admire to some degree, but the point that I'm making is they began rejecting foundations that made them, in my opinion, and in many people's opinions, made them their best, the best version of themselves during the Benz era. The other song that was the initial inspiration for this video is Louis Mistreated. Listen to this. This is one of my all-time favorite Radiohead songs, all-time favorite songs, period. Right away, that energy, it's just jumping out of the speaker. This is a crummy, laptop, Mac speaker. It's hyperactive. Listen to that. Talk about rhythmic diversity. This is a very simple, punky power pop rock song. Pardon all the genres, but listen to how it opens up here. And listen to how it drops out here. See, back then they weren't snobbing out rock cliches. Cliches can be horrible if you don't elevate them and make them your own, and make them into something unique and singular. If you don't make them of your singular artistic voice. But, unless you're going to be a Marxist or a postmodernist and reject every foundation that has organically established itself in your society and culture, you got to use these cliches, in my opinion. If you want to be the best version of yourself, you got to embrace some cliches, and then, by all means, appropriately reinvent the wheel where you can. But don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Don't make the most out of goofy arena rock moves, because that, to me, at my older age, that's where I find the most joy in music, because I hear freedom in that. When I hear OK Computer now, and these really rigid, miserable rhythmic limitations, I'm gonna put on Paranoid Android. As brilliant as Paranoid Android is, most of the song is just this. Even when Johnny Greenwood rips out those incredibly heavy guitar riffs and leads, it's still just drony, miserable, lifeless. What happened to my Radiohead? Heavier, but same rhythmic attack. The only songs on OK Computer that, to me, have the life and the spirit of the Benz era are Subterranean, Homesick Alien, and I just feel, I don't know, I feel there's a lot of life in this song. Similar to Punch Drunk Lovesick Sing-Along, it opens up with a very artsy, hazy, drifty mood and attack, but it just feels loose and free and happy. And I believe this song predates the OK Computer era by quite a bit. It certainly sounds like it does. And then you got the chorus. It's almost corny. You can do your best Freddie Mercury to that chorus. Letdown is still my favorite song off of OK Computer. Rick Beato did a Benz versus OK Computer video recently, and he chose OK Computer. I'm choosing the Benz. And I understood his logic. He said, I can't get over Letdown. It's such a gorgeous, beautiful song that does have at least some rhythmic diversity. Either way, I don't care. It's that good. And even they do kind of hammer down on this punchy rhythm for much of the song, it's very unique and interesting, so I don't mind. You know, some things are so good they're better being monotonous. You don't want the Ramones to start playing diminished and major 7 chords. Just hammer down those power chords and rock my world, right? Beautiful. So yeah, to me, I trace back the death of Radiohead, which I think, I don't know about you, but Moon-Shaped Pool, King of Limbs, like the post In Rainbow's decline that I believe was very obvious with In Rainbows, which is one of the most lifeless, pretentious, artsy to a fault records I've ever heard. I mean, Tom sounds like he's sleepwalking. I mean, at that point, he's become such a snob and a musical elitist that he's almost refusing to sing at all. It's crazy. When you listen to, I did want to throw this in here, but I think I'm going to wrap this up. The Benz, the song The Benz. All you have to do is listen to the song The Benz to hear what I'm talking about. We just heard Paranoid Android, right? Monotonous. Listen to the Benz. Even right there, it gets cut up a bit. Okay. Again, they're not afraid to be corny. They're free. They're taking risks. They took more risks with this song and that section right here. That arena rock, borderline corny melody than they did on the entirety of OK Computer. Right here. Drops out completely. Totally different groove. And then check this out. I'm talking as if whoever's watching this hasn't heard the song The Benz, but bear with me. Listen to this. Totally different groove. Seamlessly segues back into the verse, which is also attacked completely differently. It's more choppy. Before it was a steady acoustic groove. I mean, right there. That's what was lost. They got scared. The Bends is an amazing record, one of the greatest albums of all time. It failed. Somehow it failed commercially. They released the right singles. Fake Plastic Trees, High and Dry, Just, My Iron Lung. It shouldn't have failed. But in America, at least, it did. And, but it didn't. Because that's when the Radiohead army began. The people that knew the Bends, including some friends of mine, that told me about it, and stupidly I didn't check it out until right before OK Computer came out. So I was on the ground floor of the OK Computer launch, which was an amazing experience. But I got in on Radiohead right at the last minute. I barely made it before everyone knew about them. The people that heard the Bends and knew how special this music was, that's the core of this, you know, devoted, lifelong fan base that the band enjoys now. So this album was not a failure. But I guess, you know, according to a major record label that existed in an era, 1995, that began prioritizing profits over artistic and human achievement, it was a failure. And the band panicked, and they pivoted. They made a bold pivot. They went in a more experimental direction. I do admire that in many ways, but they killed the spirit and the life, the really special qualities of this band. I remember Rolling Stone described the Bends as kinetic pop. I like that word, kinetic. The music they made in the Bends era was very kinetic. It was just sparking and just jumping off the floor and out of the speaker. Even the ballads had kind of like a really urgent and joyful energy to it. So yeah, the death of one of my favorite bands began with their most critically acclaimed and beloved record, beloved to many. There's still a lot of people like me that prefer the Bends. But hey, if I'm lucky enough to have anybody watch this video, especially at this point, we're about to hit, we're probably gonna hit 33 minutes, which I think is great fun, you know, that, you know, again, some guy from Jersey can talk about music for 33 minutes, you know, for not much reason other than it's a lot of fun to do it. If I'm lucky enough that people watch this, this will probably spark a lot of different opinions about the band, about the Bends versus OK Computer. Throw it in the comments. I love engaging in the comments. I love continuing these conversations with everyone. I made a Jeff Buckley video recently, and it sparked off some really great conversations with other music fans and Buckley fans. So I know Radiohead is one of those artists, one of those bands that inspires such debate. So let's go at it. If you think I'm an idiot, call me an idiot. Well, be nice, be respectful. What I want to encourage the most is make your own video. I would love that the most. I mean, make it, put it in my comments, but you don't even have to benefit my my views or whatever I'm going for here. Just put it up online. I'll find it, or I don't know, hashtag me, connect it to mine. Drop a link in the comments to your video. Put a video online of you talking about deep diving into the distinguishing differences between the Bends era of Radiohead and the OK Computer and post-OK Computer era of Radiohead. What do you think is better? Why do you think it's better? What do you think are the main features and characteristics of the music of both those eras that distinguish them from each other? That would be a great conversation. Instead of just saying, well, I like this better, and let's dig deep. To me, that's the fun of it. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Whoever may watch this, very much appreciate it. I'm gonna get a few things done today. Okay, let's talk more. Thank you. God bless.